Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Kidney Conversations. I am C. Allen, better known as Chef Benne, and I am so excited to be here today because of our special guest. We have none other than Vincent Fleming here live in the studios. Give him a hand, everyone. Yes. So one of the reasons why we invited Vincent Fleming here today, because he has a remarkable story. You already know what Kidney Conversations is about. Kidney Conversations is where yours truly bring in different guests so we can talk about all aspects of the kidney community. Now, Vincent happens to be on dialysis for the second time. So we want to hear all of that, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because me, as a 2-year-old kidney transplant survivor, one of my worst nightmares is to have to go back on dialysis. And that's something that Vincent is experiencing now. So I wanted to come get close up person with someone that's back on dialysis so I can find out about the mental psyche and all those other things. So let's get straight to it. So Vincent, I am so excited to have you here. I want you to tell us all about your story.
Well, I'm Vincent Fleming. I had many jobs. I used to be a school teacher. I also worked at a restaurant called Reeves Restaurant and Bakery, which was on 13th and G. I was in the window, and I also taught school. So I would leave one job and go to the next job and then go to the next job. So one day I was at one of my jobs and I realized I was tired. And I got this metallic taste in my mouth. I said, why am I tasting aluminum? And I said, well, maybe it's the feeling that's in my teeth. And I said, man, I don't think so. Then I started getting headaches. And I wasn't a type of person that went to the doctors. I decided that I'm just going to take Tylenol and just go to sleep and wake up and get up. Then one day I was at one of my jobs. I decided to just lay back in the office. And then I got in my truck and I noticed I was at the light and I couldn't move. It was like the light was going yellow, red, green, yellow. Then all of a sudden I went home. And my mom came over and said, why are you not answering the phone? I said, I just don't feel well. She said, you look gray. So the next thing I know, I went to Providence Hospital and I had a good job, but I decided to take my insurance put it in the back, and I decided to get on the COBRA program because insurance back then, it was like they was taking too much out of my check. So I put it on the COBRA program, which you pay whatever it was, and then I said I never get sick, so I canceled that. So when they finally put me in the hospital to ICU, they said, you know, your kidneys have failed. And I remember the doctors came with the residents and said, okay, well, then the lady said, we forgot to do your paperwork downstairs, but since they knew me, they said, okay, we'll let you up. But they asked me that I had the same insurance, and I told them no. So the doctor tell the resident, well, this is expensive, and they put me out. So I ended up going to a clinic called the Perry Clinic, and then I met this wonderful doctor, and she said, I can't believe you're still alive because all your numbers are off. And then all of a sudden, I began to be able not to see. My eyes were blurry. So then they were telling me this and they were telling me that, and I said, did God tell you that? She said, oh, wow. And after that, they sent me to a place called DC General Hospital that was closed, but it was the annex. So the lady told me I had to quit my job and I had to get something called DC Health Alliance. I said, I'd never not worked. So she said, in order for you to get treated, you have to get this insurance. So I had to call my job. They said, well, Mr. Fleming, when you get better, we will hold your job and give it back. I said, I have to quit right now. So, they gave me some kind of insurance, and I realized I had to go on a different journey. And I called my sister. I said, I'm going to pay you, take 2 weeks off of work. I'm going to show you how they treat black people who they think don't have anything. So I went through this thing with these doctors that they chose for me. I won't mention the names. And I ended up in the Greater Southeastern Hospital on the 8th floor. And at night I could hear the IVs going beep, beep, people going help, help, help. So I had a friend who worked at NIH, and she came up and she said, this room smells like menstruation. And I said, what is that? And I remember that morning they came and stuck something in my groins to to do whatever they had to do for dialysis. So she said, "You're not the Vincent I know." I said, "What would I do?" Only thing I would do is call the director of the hospital. So I called the director of the hospital, and I remember this is supposed to be a hospital that's supposed to not exist. And this lady came, a little Oriental woman, came with Chanel on and a little brooch. And she said, "Who is your doctor?" And I told her who my doctor was. And she said, "Well, that doctor doesn't care about you." So next thing I know, she called that doctor on the phone. And next thing I know, I had skin cream come up. I had people come and check my eyes. And she told me, "As soon as your Medicare and Medicaid check in, you get rid of that doctor." I said, "I've never been sick, so I don't know what to do." So after that, I started becoming who I knew I am to be. And I started to look around for different doctors, kidney doctors. And I found a very good doctor. He was a Jewish doctor, and I love him to this day. His name is Dr. Q, and he ran Capital Dialysis Center. He showed me exactly how to live. And once the insurance kicked in, I had a better quality of life. I started choosing the people to treat me and to take care of me. And then I started to get better, and I started to get strong again. And then, yes, it was fear because it was an unknown world. I'd never been sick before. And I didn't know about these. I don't like needles. I didn't know that they had to create a fistula in your arm, that they had to stick needles in. And that was like painful in the beginning. But then I started mastering all of the dialysis, and I started reading more, and I started getting introduced to wonderful people who cared about me. And the journey has been interesting. And I remember the day they called me for my transplant. It was April 4th, 2011. It was thundering and lightning, and I don't answer my phone. It's the same day Dr. Martin Luther King was shot, but not the year. So when they finally got a hold of me, they said, "Come to Washington Hospital Center quick. We have a kidney for you."
Okay, well, Vincent, wait a minute, because you're going too far now. First of all, you almost had me about to fall out here, so wait a minute. Let's back up a little bit. How old were you when you realized that you had kidney failure?
2004. I'm 60 years old this year now.
Wow.
So 2004. So I was, well, y'all have to give me that calculation.
Maybe that was like 40, 45.
40, into my 40s, yeah.
Okay, in your 40s you found out. And one of the things, audience, that I think is really important before we continue is a lot of times in our community, we have no knowledge of kidney disease. And that's one of the reasons why we have this show. And as we sit here and listen to Vincent, Vincent fell into the category that I was in, where when they told me I had kidney failure, I had no clue what in the world is going on. What is kidney failure? Here am I, a young CEO, traveling the world, and to go to the doctor and they tell me the same thing, that you have kidney failure. I'm like, no, wait a minute. And then they immediately, probably the same way with you, by saying, okay, you have to hurry up and get on dialysis. And so I said, no, hold up. I need to take a breather. So I took about a week. They said, well, you can't wait. You got to do it right now. I said, I need an opportunity to research. And I pause right here to say that that is the purpose why the Sea Island Foundation exists, to help everyone in the beginning, like most of our audience may have never heard of kidney disease or kidney failure. And the purpose of doing these shows is so we can share the light on what happened. Now, when you went to, I want to go back to when you were in the hospital, and they had mentioned to you that you had to quit your job and get another kind of insurance. Explain to us why, because I'm gonna tell you, one of the things almost happened to me. It is so crucial that we understand about health insurance, because a lot of people may not have it, but it's detrimental if you happen to be diagnosed with certain conditions. And the biggest thing for me, Vincent, was when I went to apply for Medicare. I was making too much to get Medicaid, so I had to apply for Medicare. And when I went down there in my 40s and they telling me, well, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I got this referral from the doctor. She looked at the referral, ladies and gentlemen, and said to me, you have end-stage renal failure. I said, that's when it hit me. End stage, meaning to me, you're about to die renal failure, and that's when everything changed. So when did it change for you to make you realize, well, wow, this is really serious?
Well, what happened was when I was losing my eyesight, and then they told me, what happened was, I said, I can't urinate anymore. What's wrong? And that's when I knew. And then they said it's end-stage renal. And I said, what's renal disease? What's dialysis? And I thought I knew everything, but I didn't know that.
Yes.
And that's when it all changed. And then the depression comes. And then, the depression comes. You don't know, why don't I want to go outside? Why don't I want to turn on the TV? Why don't I want to be able to be around people? Why am I not answering my friends' calls? I said, what's wrong with me? And then the medications, the side effects with the medications. They don't tell you about that, but you get a lot of side effects with the medication.
So listen, Vincent, before we go to break, let me just ask you this question. Our stories mirrored. And the depression for me wasn't necessarily kidney failure. The depression for me was, I felt like I've helped so many people for so long that now that I'm sick and down and out, where's everyone?
That's how I felt. And that's how I feel the same thing. I've helped so many people, and I mean help them, paying their rent, do whatever, etc. Where are they now?
So this is what we're going to do, everybody. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we want to pick up where are the people and what can we do from there. So we want to talk about that. We'll be right back on Kidney Conversations. Before we went to break, we were talking a little bit about the depression piece, and we don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but I want to know, we talked about that. So how did you overcome the depression?
Well, I was at dialysis one day, and one of my nurses came over to me and said, you look like you're full of energy. I said, I don't feel good. So she said, call me. And she took me to a jazz festival. And we started hanging out. It was like a new family member had come into my life. And then she said, see, you can live without being depressed. And then she started calling me and I started hanging out with her. And that was like an angel from heaven saying, you can live. And then she started showing me the different things to do when I was on dialysis. And that kind of helped me get out of the depression. And she was telling me what to do if you feel depressed or something, just open up the Bible and start reading the Bible and hanging out with her. And that kind of made a difference because I really went to a dark place and I never thought I was going to come out of it.
Real good. I think in my situation, it was because I was fortunate to own the beauty school. I came to work every day regardless. So I would come to work and it so happened that we had just lost our admissions officer. So I had to go on the first floor, which was even better. See, God knew what he was doing. I couldn't hide in my office on the third floor. I had to be right on the first floor, the first door that every student would see when they would either come to the back or even go to the restroom. I was the first door. So I did that until they called me in to go to the chair. Let's kind of talk, Vincent, a little about how long were you on dialysis, and tell us a little bit about the time that you were on dialysis.
Okay, when I started dialysis in 2004 and to 2011, I was on every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And then I would travel to different states and I would see the different treatment of dialysis. Like when I went to Colorado, they asked you, do you want a pillow? Would you like some ice? Could we heat up your food? And I said, and they would look at me like, why are you looking like that? You're in the nation's capital. Do you get that service? I said, no. So I went to Indiana. They asked me, would you like a pillow? Would you like some ice? Would you like us to heat your food? And I said, okay. And these were like mostly white dialysis centers. I'm not being prejudiced or saying anything wrong. And I said, okay, why are we not getting the same treatment that they're getting? So when I got back, I talked to who was director of the clinic then, and I said, why don't we do night dialysis? And they started doing night dialysis. And I said, see, he said, if we do it, nobody's going to come. I said, they'll come. And they came. So then I realized I had to be an advocate. And then I realized I had to have a voice. And That's what made me more stronger. So I decided that I think I'll be more of an advocate, and that kind of got me more involved.
Very good. So I think now what I want to kind of express to everyone is when Vincent was talking about different states, I did it a little differently. What happened was during the different states, you would have to, in advance, you would have to schedule a dialysis center if you wanted to travel. So if you wanted to travel, you had to schedule a visit at another dialysis center prior to going. I decided not to travel because I didn't want to go through that scheduling with another center, and I didn't know how I was going to feel afterwards, because after 4 hours on the machine, then of course you're very tired, and I didn't want to travel to go on vacation and have to go on dialysis. So I decided to not travel at all during that time. So that's what he means by going to different states and everything. And I do think that's really good, because by him going to different states, he were able to see how they treated people differently. Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go into the negative experiences, because there are a lot of negative experiences. And one of the things that I would say is I would say that I would not wish dialysis on anyone. And that is because for the first time, there may be now that, and we're going to talk about it now that he's back on dialysis, you know, we want to talk about have things changed. But I know for me being sick for the first time, seeing people go into cardiac arrest right in front of you, sometimes right beside you. And sometimes they were your friends that sit with you every time you're in treatment, and now they went on to glory right there. You know, it was something, and a lot of times it was, they didn't have the convenience to bring that curtain that they normally would and sit it in between us. We sit there and we see the whole thing, and it become very traumatic, because then you begin to think, hey, is that going to happen to me? So let's go to a little lighter note. Let's get a little light, Vincent. Talk to us about what happened when you got that call after your 7 years of being on dialysis.
What happened when I first got that call, I was so excited, but I was like, nervous at the same time. When they rolled me in the room and they gave me the anesthesia, and I remember going out, and when I woke up, I had a kidney. I said, wow, I have a kidney. But when I first received that kidney, I believed I was that person for like 4 months. So it was a little.
Okay, so wait a minute. Now, what do you mean by you thought you was that person for 4 months? Explain that to me.
I never watched football. I'm not a sports person. I'm a creative person. I do cakes and pies and stuff like that. And I wanted to watch football, and I started going outside in pajamas and Timberland boots. And one of my students told me, said, Mr. Fleming, you okay? I said, why? They said, you have on clothes. You told us not to dress like this. And I said, oh. So I talked to my doctor, and I said, is it any chance that I'm this person? They said some people say that you can become this person and it eventually will die out. So I experienced somebody else for like a couple of months. So it was a little interesting, but I'm back to me now. But the kidney for 9 years was great. I was able to travel again. I was able to hang out again. I was able to do me again. But it's funny when you're on dialysis for 7 years and you don't urinate. You can travel, you can drive all the way to New York and don't have to stop for the bathroom. But now that you have the kidney, when I had the kidney, you had to go to the bathroom more often. So that was a benefit. Well, I can say being on dialysis and having a kidney, you didn't have to pee, but now you have to pee when you have a kidney. But now the kidney had left me in January the 20th of 2020. I got it the day Dr. Martin Luther King was shot, and it left me on his birthday. So I know it was a gift from God, because I love Dr. Martin Luther King.
Wonderful. So then that's what I want to go into. I want to go into, because this is the part, one of the main reasons why we wanted to have you here. I want to go into how did you lose the kidney first? And then my next question is, how is it being back on dialysis for the second time?
Okay, when it happened was, when my creatinine levels, which is the kidney function levels, which you have to ask your doctor about, it kept going up and down, up and down, up and down. They would be fine, and it would go up again, and it would be fine, and it would go up again. So I asked one of my doctor's assistants, I said, why is my numbers not good like the other guy who got the kidney the same time I got my kidney? They said you had an okay kidney because my kidney came from a cadaver, which is a dead person. So that means that whatever I got was the time for whatever I had. So it only lasted for 9 years. And it was a good 9-year run. And I really enjoyed having the kidney for 9 years.
Oh, that's awesome. So I said to myself, this is my second year transplanted, and I am doing everything I can to keep my, my babies right here, to keep it, in really good condition, because we've had people who've had their kidneys for 20 plus years before they needed another transplant. So now the follow-up question is, did depression kick back in? Did you feel a certain way? Did you feel like I got to go back to the same center again? I mean, how was your mental psyche to say the journey starts again?
Well, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to be transparent. When it left me, I said, I don't want to live anymore. So one day the site just bled. I just sat in the chair and let it bleed all night long. And I said, if I don't wake up, I don't wake up. So when I woke up the next morning, all this blood around me, I said, well, maybe God has a purpose for me. So I went to the emergency room and they gave me some blood. And I called my mom and my sisters and I said, I'm still here. She said, what do you mean? I said, I tried to stop it. I said, whatever it was bleeding, I was going to let it bleed out. But God has a purpose for me.
Yes.
So I said to myself, by being here, meeting Mr. Bennett, I've heard so many great things about him through a friend of mine who's kind of like a famous makeup artist. He talked about Mr. Bennett. And then one day I was at dialysis, was the other day. And they said, would you like to do a commercial? I said, a commercial for who? And they said, Mr. Bennett. And I said, so I called my friend Reggie Wells, who used to do Oprah. And I said, guess who I'm going to meet? And he said, who? I said, Mr. Bennett. He said, oh, I want to come. And I said, okay. And then when I met Mr. Bennett, as they called him Chad, he was so delightful. He was so full of energy. It was like I knew him all along. And then I told him, I want to do this. He said, okay. And I got the invitation and I came today. And I'm glad I did.
Very good, very good. So listen, what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to take a short break. And then when we come back, we're going to do our closing with Vincent Fleming. This has been an amazing conversation. We'll be right back after these messages. Hey guys, this is our final segment here on Kidney Conversations, and I just wanted to be really honest when I say this. And I'm a big believer in Christ, but I want to be honest when I say this, and that is that when Vincent mentioned that he didn't want to live anymore, I told my executive assistant, my executive assistant Ashley, it was either her or Andrew. I said that I'm not going back on dialysis again. And I can really understand what Vincent was saying, because I literally said that I'm going to check out. And I was serious about that. And keep in mind, I do the counseling for all the students, and I do everything I can to help people. But people have no clue what we go through on that machine 3 days a week, 4 hours a day, and still trying to live an abundant life. And a lot of times it just doesn't happen because you're so weak and you're so tired. And I believe now, by listening to Vincent, that he didn't know this. We had no clue that he would really, all of this came together at the last minute, but God doesn't make any mistakes, because now I'm beginning to change my train of thought. Because Vincent was trying to check out, then he realized that God had another plan for him. And if God allows this to happen where I lose my kidney, then I'm sure that he's going to make a way with either another kidney or being able to make sure that I have peace if I have to be back in the chair again. So I kind of rebuke that spirit in the name of Jesus in reference to being checking out, because we just don't not only believe that, but don't promote that. But I'm just being very honest with you. So Vincent, in our closing, I want to talk about medication, because a lot of people who received the transplant, they talked about all the medication. So I want to know about the medication on the when you hit the transplant, and then the medication that you're doing now. Talk to us about that.
Okay, before I talk about that, you can't check out. I see all the love here that you have from day one to the yesterday I was here. There's so much love, so you can't check out. You can't. You have so much to do. And that's what I felt when I came here the other day. But back on the medication. When I got the kidney, they gave me all these medicines, the Prograf, the Cellsap, the medication, what is it, the Prograf or whatever? No, not the Prograf. One of the medicines that make you real big, the steroids, and it also alters your mind and makes you mean. I got in a big confrontation. I don't fight people. Me and my brother got in a big argument, and I ended up in jail for one night. I never had a bad record, but I told my counselor, I said, I'm fighting now. So he told me to give him a list of medications, and he called my doctor, and he said that medication that had the steroids, and it caused me to have an angry reaction.
Please don't say prednisone.
That's what it was.
I know you was going to say that. Go
it
ahead.
Makes you moody, mean, and whatever. So they took me off of it, and I became back. See, that's why I said the medication, it really affects you. That's why you have to learn how to deal with it, and you can't be stressed. You can't have people being negative. You have to stay around positive people, because it will make you, and it's not you, it's the medication. It's affecting your mind. And then I thought about it, because I did flowers for the NAACP, and I do all cakes and stuff, and I'm like, fighting? I have a record, but it's no longer there because they took it off. But another thing I have to say, I'm glad that I worked ever since I was 17 years old, because it built up the money in my disability. And I was able to get the disability, and I was able to get the Medicare and Medicaid to take care of me. And I thank God for that. So I tell these people who are drug dealers or whatever, you want to be out there in the streets, you don't have no money, you're going to be in trouble when you're old. But back to the medication. Medication can affect you, but the kidney medication is different from the dialysis medication, because the kidney medication, it keeps the kidneys from rejecting.
That's
and
right.
You got to take them. And it also takes you through mood swings.
Okay, so now our closing, Vincent, is what would you tell the audience today about kidney failure and your journey? What would you tell them? What kind of advice would you give our audience? This is our final question.
Stop eating out. Stop eating out a lot of salty food. And if you have headaches and if you don't feel good, go to the ER, go to the doctor, get checked up. Don't try to be your own doctor, because that was me. Taking the Tylenol, I felt better, or take something, I felt better. But you need to hear the telltale signs. If your head keeps hurting, you feel dizzy, or you feel tired, that's a problem. Check it.
Very good. So ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to say, as we close out this kidney conversation, how much we appreciate Vincent Fleming coming here, telling his amazing story, and hopefully it will be able to help someone as we pass along the way. Because what we say here on Kidney Conversations, if we can help someone as we pass along the way, then our living will not be in vain. Let's give Vincent Fleming a great hand, and we will see you next time on Kidney Conversations.
Let's talk about it. Health. Let's talk about it. Lifestyle. Let's talk about it. Choices. Let's talk about it. Health. Let's talk about it.